Welcome, modern day mystics, fellow truth seekers, James and Justin, back again with another reaction. And today we're going to be taking at a new YouTube content creator, for us at least. It's called The Wonderful Truth YouTube channel. And this video is titled, Why Religion is Collapsing in Modern Society. Sometimes it may feel like that. I don't know if that's the case, so we're going to have to watch this video and see what's really going on here. But
I like the name of the channel, The Wonderful Truth. That sounds like how didn't the Christians get to that first?
And I think this
the Church of the Wonderful Truth.
I think this is an atheistic channel. Yeah. But anyway, won't keep you guys waiting. Let's get into it.
In the 1850s, Catholic German immigrants in St. Louis, Missouri pooled their resources together in order to erect a church. In 1889, St. Laborious Church was successfully completed, a large Gothic-style house of worship with high ceilings, pointed arches, and plenty of space for many, many pews. A century later, in 1992, St. Laborious Church closed down due to a lack of members. The church was then repurposed into a skateboard park renamed Skate Laborious. What happened to St. Laborious Church is not some isolated incident. It is emblematic of a much wider trend. In the United States, somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 churches close down every year, either to be repurposed as apartments, laundries, laser tag arenas, skate parks, or to simply be demolished. In my new book with Isabella Casselstrand and Phil Zuckerman, Beyond Doubt, The Secularization of Society, we explore what is happening to religion around the world and why churches like St. Laborious are being converted into skate parks. To start, we need to define two concepts, secularization and modernization. We define secularization as the process of shifting from beliefs, values, and behaviors rooted in the supernatural to beliefs, values, and behaviors rooted in the natural. And we define modernization as the transition from a traditional, rural, non-industrial society to a contemporary, urban, industrial, or even post-industrial society. Why these two concepts? At the heart of secularization is the link between modernization and secularization. Or, as we put it in the book, the more modernized a society and its institutions and individuals are, the greater the likelihood of secularization. That's all really abstract. Let's move it into the realm of the concrete. Do you know precisely how a cell phone is able to allow you to talk to someone on the other side of the planet in real time? Some people watching this video will know the answer to that, but the vast majority will not. For those who do not know how a cell phone works, do you think it's magic? Do you think it's the divine power of a deity? Do you think it involves pixie dust or unicorns? And if your cell phone breaks, are you going to take it to a priest, a pastor, a rabbi, an imam, or a shaman to get it fixed? Or are you going to take it to a repair shop where someone knows how to fix it? If you don't believe that cell phones work using magic, but rather that they function thanks to modern technology and engineering, you are employing a modern worldview. And it is precisely that perspective that leads to declining religiosity. Modern worldviews challenge religious claims, from the age of the planet to why clergy should dictate how you live your life. We're not the first to propose this theory. Early social thinkers like Auguste Comte and Max Weber recognized the challenges of modernity for religiosity. And many scholars over the years, from Peter Berger to Steve Bruce to David Vos and Mark Chaves, have all argued the same thing. Modernization causes problems for religion. In countries that are modernizing and have freedom of religion, secularization is happening. We examine changes in religious belief, behavior, and identification and show that religiosity is declining in countries like Spain, Estonia, Iceland, Czechia, Japan, Poland, Ireland, and Taiwan, among many, many others. Now, religiosity is not declining everywhere, but the theory doesn't argue that it will decline everywhere, only that it will decline in the countries where two criteria are met. People have the freedom to choose to leave religion, and the country is modernizing. If leaving religion comes with severe penalties like being put to death, as is the case in Mauritania, people aren't willing to admit that they're no longer religious. As a result, some countries have high levels of what we call artificial religiosity. People in those countries...
Before we get into the artificial religiosity section of what he was talking about here, I would have rathered maybe kind of a definition on what you consider to be religious at the beginning, rather than the kind of like modernization definitions he was going through, because I don't think it's that religion is dying. I think it's that the belief structures are evolving into different, more complex systems. I think there's no lack of believing in things. There's lots of believing in things. Things that can't be tested or even proven, even though we call a lot of these things logical or rational things, they're rooted in some underlying faith at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point to what you said about, I agree with, first of all, this video is very good so far.
Yeah.
It's a good channel. But I agree with what you said. Beginning of a basic definition of traditional religion would have been good. But I'm curious as to what you... I'm not trying to argue. I'm curious. I'd like to know what you mean by belief is evolving and people are believing in things that can't be tested. What do you mean by that?
The people who would be considered an authority on something scientific right now, they're an authority right now simply because they haven't been proven wrong yet. But as history has shown us over time, things constantly are being rearranged, proven wrong, and then modified to be something else. So what seems to be logical or absolute right now, one day, in given an infinite amount of time, on some level, has a probability of being proven wrong.
Well, I feel like the defense for that, for somebody that would be like, yes, that is the whole point of science. That's why it's good, is because it can evolve and it can admit to its faults and but people can become, even in science, they can become dogmatic. It is true. Being open-minded sometimes can be helpful, even in something like science. Where my mind went is, I remember, like, I was religious as a kid. I went to church. Mm. But I remember going to see a superhero movie and coming home and being, like, down that wasn't real.
Yeah.
Because I was, like, creative. I was, like, playing, pretending I had superpowers. And I was like, oh, they're not real, though. I didn't even think for a second, oh, my religion isn't real. And I thought about it a little bit more. And I was like, well, who cares that it's not real? There's a reality to it in my own mind. And it caused me to... And then you grow up and you find out about Fan Expo, and there's guys that are like building Iron Man costumes in their garage. They're doing and there's people that take things as real as they want it to be.
Yeah.
And I think artificial religiosity, maybe this will touch on. I don't know. I'm not going to make a solid prediction. But to those that want pageantry, want to hold scepters and wear cloaks, or want to believe in anything I think it's beautiful that people can go from understanding that if they want their cell phone fixed, they got to go to a technician to do it.
Yeah.
They could also pray for a miracle. There are lots of people with miracle stories that are like, I needed that cell phone to work, and I just got on my knees and prayed, and magically it turned back on.
Yeah.
This will frustrate somebody that wants to only believe in science.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, even if you're scientific, you can take the truth of this video and still balance it against the wonderful world of imagination and creativity. You're free to participate at whatever degree you want. The final thing before I finish my thing would be the idea of feuding inside of it, going, yeah, your way of your talking, Justin, is dangerous. Because if you allow people to just believe as much as they want nonsense things, that's where war comes from. And it's like, But again, like you said, you can do that with science. You can cause damage even with science, because if it is, it's like, yeah, but that's different. It's more solid. It's more sophisticated. Yeah. People have claimed, I've heard people that study Buddhism claim that Buddhism's like science. It's open to evolve and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, we have enough like things to reflect on from our history now that I think eventually beliefs start to fall away in certain things, given enough evidence, enough time, enough people changing, enough things that we go, I can't hold on to that belief anymore.
How aware are you? Does it hurt? There are some people that are in the business of saving people.
Yeah.
That face conundrums that they don't understand. They're like, holy shit, I'm a doctor of saving people. Yeah. And then somebody comes in that just doesn't resist the disease I prognosis them with, and they heal miraculously, versus somebody we stubbornly try to control.
Yeah.
So, yes, the whole indicator here in lieu of this entire video would be like we've said in the past, hold it lightly.
Yeah.
And resistance versus acceptance versus flowing versus realizing, oh, there's like a limit to all this exhaustive discourse and thought. You don't always have to correct someone because they're too dogmatically religious or because they're so scientific they're like blind to living.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can be so right you're wrong. You can be so right you don't have room to be wrong in a way that's healthy for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
Countries are unlikely to be as religious as official numbers or survey data indicate, but they are also protecting themselves from severe penalties by inflating their religiosity. What is particularly amazing about secularization is that it is playing out in very diverse contexts. We look at 4 countries in detail in the book: Norway, Chile, South Korea, and the United States of America, or USA. Let's consider some statistics. Between 2008 and 2018, the percentage of Norwegians who affiliated with the national church declined from 77.9% to 62.2%. Between 1991 and 2018, belief in a god fell from 41.6% to 34.1% in Norway, and similar declines were observed in belief in life after death, heaven, hell, and religious miracles. In Chile in 1998, 52.2% reported a great deal of confidence in churches or organized religions. In 2018, that was down to 13.3%. South Korea is an interesting example of secularization because religious affiliation...
Sorry, I know we weren't supposed to do this. Sometimes I forget why I'm making a point. My mind's a crazy thing. Part of the reason I was mentioning the cosplay thing is, now that he's getting into these statistics, like, because my last rant probably frustrated some people that are like, what was that? Stick to the data, for God's sake. He's defeating you in the clear distinction that, look, it is reducing. It's reducing. Religion's going away. It's going away. But I'm saying, look at what people are also doing. There are people getting together. We know we've got a lot of young people in our large family, and they get together and they act out Dungeons and Dragons. Like, that was invented in the 70s, and it's grown to like so elaborate, the behaving in Dungeons and Dragons, building costumes in a fantasy world. And it's like, the difference is they know it's a fantasy. People do crazy things in the name of fantasy. They do. They get married in cosplay. They dedicate their life in a lot of different ways. All the same potential for dispute and jealousy and drama and fighting and stuff. It's even in an everly not religious world. Yeah. What do we do? Abolish wars. So I don't know what the bottom line of the point of religion going away is, but I kind of feel like there's some element of changing forms. There are lots of churches around where we have come where, yes, there's no building anymore, but the churches are amalgamating and getting together in like a theater or something different and doing things differently, mixing other religions together.
Yeah.
We're
online churches. There's
online
whole
churches.
Things going
We're
on
spiritual.
Online.
What do you try? Are we trying to get rid of the idea finally science wins, no more spirituality? That's like saying no more creativity. Or no more reaching beyond
imagination,
the known. Yeah. So like, I just wanted to check in with that. You know, still not against this video. Yeah. Still good video.
Yeah.
Hard data. That's good.
Affiliation actually increased in South Korea for a short period in the 1980s and 1990s as it was rapidly modernizing. However, now that it has become a highly modernized urban country, religiosity is plummeting in South Korea, and fully 54.9% of South Koreans identify as being atheists. They don't believe in a god at all. That is one of the highest percentages of any country in the entire world. And what about the USA? For a long time, scholars thought the USA was an exception to secularization because it did allow freedom of religion and was quite modern. But the Cold War delayed the onset of secularization because the federal government linked religiosity with national identity in the war against godless communists, artificially inflating religiosity until the Cold War ended in the late 1980s. Since then, the decline of religion in the US has been rapid. Religious attendance is inflated in self-report survey data. In surveys, just under 40% of Americans claim they attend religious services roughly every week. But when scholars like me actually verify attendance data, the number is closer to half of that. About 20% of Americans are actually attending services on roughly a weekly basis, which means about 80% of Americans are not regular religious service attenders. When the vast majority of a country's population isn't engaged with organized religion on a regular basis, it's hard to argue that the country is highly religious. Another fascinating statistic helps illustrate the rapid change in religiosity in the US: weddings. 48% of the weddings of 18 to 35-year-olds in the US in recent years were secular, meaning they were not performed inside a church, a mosque, a synagogue, or other house of worship, and were not performed by clergy. As a sociologist who studies religion, I regularly attend religious services to see what is happening. In the book, I recount a church visit in the fall of 2021 when I attended a Baptist church that had been in existence since 1950 and was a cornerstone of my neighborhood here in Tampa, Florida. In attendance that day were 8 women, ranging from their mid-60s to their late 80s. 2 entered the sanctuary with the aid of walkers. The pastor, a middle-aged male, explained in a brief interview before the service that it was not a matter of if the congregation was going to close, but when. In short, where people have the freedom to choose not to be religious and live in modern societies, they are increasingly choosing not to be involved in organized religion. Secularization is happening around the world. We tackle a few other topics in the book. For instance, in one of the chapters, we discuss what secular life looks like, and in another, we examine the question of whether people are innately religious. If you want the longer, detailed answers, you'll have to read the book. But the short answers are: secular life looks a lot like normal life, because much of people's lives, whether they are religious or not, is now secular. Secular people are moral, happy, healthy, and well-adjusted, but they face all the same problems religious people face: relationships, making money, mental health concerns, and finding meaning in an indifferent universe. As for whether humans are innately religious, of course not. The suggestion that they are is a remarkable misreading of human evolution and the characteristics of both humans and the societies that we construct. What does all of this mean? We don't go so far as to suggest that religion will eventually disappear entirely. Scholars who have made that suggestion in the past have been roundly and reasonably criticized. However, we do think that religiosity will continue to decline when people have the freedom to choose whether they want to be religious or not, and they live in modern, technologically advanced societies. The continued decline of religiosity in the face of modernization is beyond doubt.
Very, very interesting. That guy would probably hate me in real life because I was all like spitting anecdotal stuff, and he was obviously a scholar.
Yeah, they did a good job of plugging their book, the No Doubt book there, a few times in there.
Check
so
it out.
If you want to see that, go check it out. I was just kind of like thinking about the evolution of all this, because it's not just tied into modernization. I think that there's also part of it is tied into survival and like a certain amount of prosperity that you have in your life that allows you to go out and explore new ideas and find new beliefs. The more isolated you are and the more you are bound by a life that requires you to not even be able to contemplate these things will keep you, I think, in a bubble. So I think it's good to keep that in mind. And also, like, I don't know if he was trying to get at this, but the idea that, like, you know, one's superior over the other. I hate looking at it like that. Like I think it's just a cause and effect of its environment. whether or not you're
Yeah.
you are turning secular or you're religious. We could all go back to the Stone Ages tomorrow if a meteor hit the planet.
Well,
we might be,
so
barbarians.
I want to piggyback off of what you're saying there because it's true that there are people that are on hard drugs that are religious somewhere that ain't gonna let go of Jesus. One more hit. Well, I do. I don't want to make fun of. Okay, like this is not far from things I've rubbed elbows with. It's not that. I'm just saying that you can be totally corrupt and religious at the same time.
Yeah.
And it is kind of what you say, but I don't want to be disparaging to somebody that's like in a bad situation that's watching a video like this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that a bunch of people in, like a drug house would be sitting around watching this. They might. I don't want to limit it. Welcome to have you. But I'm saying even no matter where you are, you don't have to be. Oftentimes it is a product of your environment.
Yeah.
How much trauma, I was like forced to be, not me. I'm saying somebody may say I was forced to be religious growing up. And so it's like, was hard to let go of. It was hard to not be religious.
Yeah.
But you can be clever. You can have an IQ of 72 and be clever and be like, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to be religious anymore. It's a luck of the draw in some sense, what you'll see and what you won't see. Yeah. And I agree. I don't think it is a matter of superiority, but this guy clearly cares about this topic. Yeah. And he's like, look what's going on. Maybe you find this interesting too. Look what's happening to religion. And he's making solid... I don't even argue with his points. It sounds like religion in a lot of the ways he talked about is going. I just think that... and he even said, he was like, nobody's going to say that it's going to be gone or whatever. We're not saying that. But I do think it might change forms.
Oh, for sure.
It has changed forms in our lifetime.
Yeah. Like there are a few psychological, systems out there that kind of like monitor this thing and like where it goes. So it doesn't necessarily end with like pure atheism. If you take kind of like a spiral dynamics model, or, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, things like that. And sometimes there are atheists that also become religious all of a sudden. Yeah. Because of things that they still have to go through.
Because you don't know what things are. When something happens to you, it's so neat because religious people can enlighten into atheists and atheist people can enlighten into religious people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like atheists all of a sudden is like, what was that? What was that transcendent experience?
Yeah.
I was never creative, and all of a sudden I'm like having visions and all this stuff, and there's no explanation for it.
Yeah.
And then somebody who's religious was like, I was full of shit and didn't even realize it, and how good it feels just to be organic matter, and I can explain what it is.
Yeah.
I can watch my diet and feel good and not be like locked into some shit.
You see that stuff in like real time with NDE podcasts and stuff like that. If you watch some NDE podcasts, like people who were like total atheists, scientific, they were like working the corporate ladder, and then they had like a near-death experience, and they were like, I gave up everything, and now I'm religious. So I met Jesus.
Whatever that is.
I met Krishna.
Whatever religious is. Yeah.
But anyway, we went on long enough on this one, guys. Hopefully you liked it. The Wonderful Truth YouTube channel. Go check them out. If you liked our reaction on it, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone until next time, stay spiritual.